Today in the Texas Tribune Weekend Insider, Executive Editor Ross Ramsey tells us where we're at and what's new on the long and winding road to Texas legislative redistricting. Texas leads the nation in for-profit alternative certification. Reporter Morgan Smithe reports on the pros and cons.
Really what we're talking about is that a Republican legislature, as you might expect, drew maps that are overwhelmingly favorable to Republicans. And that any changes that the courts make, for whatever reason, if they're changing because we want to have minority opportunity districts where minority voters can elect the candidates of their choice or whatever, any changes they make are going to be some variation on a Republican map. And the Republicans are probably going to lose ground. Well, as it turns out, in the maps that we've seen from the courts, the Republicans lose some seats. Still an overwhelmingly Republican state, still will probably overwhelmingly put Republicans in the state legislature, both in the House and in the Senate. The congressional delegation is going to be strongly Republican, but maybe not as strongly so as the Republicans had hoped when they drew the maps. Well, so we have this weird thing where the courts are working on two fronts. There's a part of the redistricting case went to Washington, and that basically is the part that's concerned with whether the state legislature went backwards on allowing minorities to have representative districts. The part of the lawsuit that was about whether the growth in the state was accurately reflected in the maps, in other words, going forward, whether you had enough minority opportunity districts, went to San Antonio. So we have two federal courts, Washington and San Antonio, working on this. San Antonio's done. Washington is still pending. So it could be that we have elections in 2012 with maps drawn by San Antonio courts and elections in 2014 with maps drawn by some combination of Washington courts and San Antonio courts. So this isn't over yet.
The state of Texas, since the mid-'80s, has allowed people to get a teaching certificate through what's called alternative certification. These programs can be administered by either nonprofits like Teach for America, or even some school districts have their own programs, or for-profit companies. It allows people who are maybe midlife career changers to go into teaching without having to go back to school and get a degree. There is a high need in Texas, or at least there was until the economic recession started hitting us, and we're kind of still trying to understand how the budget cuts enacted during the last legislative session are going to affect people going into the teaching profession. And part of it is that the climate in Texas has just been really friendly towards for-profit companies. For-profit and nonprofit alternative certification programs now train about 40% of all new teachers coming into the workplace. I talked to principals for this story, and I talked to other people in the education community, and a lot of them praised very highly the people that came out of alternative certification programs, especially those who have had relevant career experiences as to what they were doing in the classroom. But there were also those who said that people coming from alt certification programs weren't as well prepared as those who came from your traditional university education degree background. There's no other state that has such a booming industry of alternative certification, and I think other states could do well to watch how Texas handles it and what the results are once these teachers get into the classroom.